What Remains is an interactive visual novel-style story that explores the connection between glitch art and mental illness. The work takes place in a village where you play through a linear story about abuse, neglect, and loss. Accompanied with these themes are a heavy use of auditory and visual glitches. The work features a limited set of ludic elements that allow the player to explore each scene and make small choices that changes dialogue but does not affect the story at large. Through the creation of this work, I was able to find a strong link between glitch art and mental deterioration. A glitch can be defined as malfunction or a failure of communications in or between systems. In essence, it is a technical failure. Glitch art takes the idea of malfunction and intentionally produces the effect of failure either through simulating malfunction or by causing malfunction. A work may use digital tools to simulate loss of data in a visual game asset, or an artist may use a digital audio workstation plugin to slice, pitch, distort, or destroy audio signals. Other works of art causes glitch effects through destroying hardware or software, like overexposing pictures in a dark room, or throwing a VCR player down the stairs to see what happens, or cutting and taping together cassette tapes. Horror games and movies use glitch elements to elicit fear. Shows like Max Headroom used the glitch aesthetic to pass off actor Matt Freyer's performance as a digital CGI character, when in reality he was a man in prosthetics, and video manipulation was used to make him look CG. Music like black metal uses noise, distortion, and hardware failure to produce its raw and noise-filled atmosphere. This is used to show discontent towards normalcy. Japanese noise music uses an even more extreme form of noise to show distaste for normalcy. Rap, hip-hop, metal, avant-garde music all incorporate glitch elements in some way to go against the norm, most often as an act of discontent. The early political rap movement used sampling, slicing, and turntable manipulation. Music is very important in my work, as music has been proved again and again to be able to alter moods and emotions. There would be a huge dissonance between my work and the music if I were to use an upbeat pop song as a soundtrack. To sow feelings of uncertainty, fear, and unease, I needed to pervert and take apart what we see as normalcy. Mental health, much like glitch art, is a failure of systems communicating. May it be neurons or chemical imbalances, something that should be working one way, doesn't. This is where my thesis started. Methodology. This thesis was investigated through the use of practice-based research. Through the process of making and analyzing a creation, in this case an interactive fiction, you gain knowledge about the thesis. In this case, the relationship between glitch art and mental deterioration. First came the creation of the idea. This is where my work went from being a platformer to a visual novel. Writing down scripts and testing the ludology within the platformer genre led me to scrap what I had and create a visual novel, but without the branching paths and impactful choices. Then I created the assets, and further corrupted the assets through the Photoshop tool. Distortion, noise, and displacement were all effective tools of the trade. The creation of the soundscape was of major importance to the work, as per the reason mentioned before. I used a digital audio workstation to play synthesizers and guitars, and then corrupting the signal with noise, detuning, pitch shifting, and slicing. Lastly, I used a Salgo text generator to create the corrupt text. When creating What Remains, I ditched the idea of a platformer due to its limiting factor in sequencing and timing. Giving the players control of movement created big question marks around how and when the player triggers certain scenes and effects. I found that this empowerment, taking away ludic elements and agency from the player, had a better effect on the impact of scenes. The visual aesthetic of the game features mainly grayscale color. Black, white, and grey predominantly. The reasons for this stylistic choice were threefold. Firstly, dark and grey are often used to describe things with a negative connotation. A dark period of my life, or I'm feeling grey. It represents the monotonous, the apathetic, and anhedonia. Secondly, through the eyes of the main character, a child, the world is much more black and white. Lastly, children are often afraid of the dark. So, representing things with those colors helps the player enter that mindset. There are some uses of red to signify anger, fear, and blood, but I use it very scarcely for it to not lose effect. The soundscape was important to get right. There was a lot to take into consideration. Since the game is simulating breaking apart as a simile to the mental state of the protagonist, using a digital sound font seemed logical. Synthesizers feature a digital sound, even when trying to emulate real instruments. So using digital sound synths, along with slicing, pitch shifting and detuning, also incorporating static and white noise, gave the appearance of not only the game's assets breaking apart, but also the sound. If a motherboard gets too hot, the sound card will often be the first to start lagging and glitching, so I tried to emulate the same effects here. In conclusion, the creation of What Remains revealed that the link between glitch art and mental illness is strong. Using glitch art to represent mental deterioration is a strong tool within the framework of electronic literature. The same type of malfunction we see in technology functions as a metaphor for ourselves when you start to malfunction. Auditory and visual hallucinations can be created with glitch art that mirrors those of mental illness.